welcome to Framework. I am Al Schwartz. With me, as always, is John Bernard.
Yeah, it's me, John.
We are kind of circling back today to talk about the Thunderbolts.
Why not?
We kind of got pushed off of this during Thunderbolts release because we were doing Andor weekly coverage at the time. No regrets there, but now it's a little less topical. But we're talking about it anyway because we both saw it in the theater, and when that happens, we try and talk about the thing.
Yeah, now we've kind of seen the fullness of Thunderbolts' box office narrative too, and how that fits into the larger MCU narrative box office.
What I haven't actually paid attention to the box office as much as just sort of the critical reaction, the audience reaction. It seemed to be very positive when it came out. There's a lot of Marvel's back chatter.
Oh yeah,
who knows how much of that's being pushed by the studio, but.
I think a lot. Personally, I don't know. It seems very organic online for sure.
Yeah, the people that I've heard speak of it all spoke positively of it. So it's not totally astroturfed.
No,
but I was not as taken by. And I gather maybe from your tone that you were not. I was not like, oh yeah, Marvel's back here. I was like, yeah, that was better than the last few. But although I've skipped the last few, but no, it's better than most of the ones since 2019.
It's in the middle, I think. I think you can put this right in the middle of the, maybe even the high middle, is kind of where I'd say this lands, relative to other things. It's a normal movie that does things normally and is pretty regular, I think, It's the sort of
regular as defined by the Marvel machine over the last 2 decades.
Precisely. Exactly. It's exactly what we've come to expect, I would say. And yes, there are good actors in it being good. And it's the correct way to make a film, I think, probably most of the time, is to focus on character. And that's what they do. And that's kind of what Marvel's always done. So yes, the takes of Marvel is back, baby. All the we've solved the problem here. This is what we want more of. I'm just like this. This is what they've always done. This is just a Marvel movie. It's about as good as average, I think. For them, it's solid. I enjoyed it. I have no ill will against Thunderbolts, but I'm kind of just a little surprised that this is the one people are just like, oh, thank God. We get to enjoy Marvel movies again. I'm just like. Nothing's been stopping you, man. This is what they are.
I don't think it's solved any of the problems really that they've been having, other than maybe it's a whole movie that avoids the multiverse entirely. Yeah.
I mean, I would say that the multiverse is irritating and a problem for them, but, their biggest hits of this cycle were Spider-Man and Deadpool, which were the ones that most completely just let's do multiverse shit, and those, not only were they the most popular financially, everyone likes those two a lot, as far as I can tell.
Yes, but there's a thing, I guess, on the creative side, and, it goes across all late-stage capitalism, perhaps, but the idea that sometimes there's things that you can do once or twice, but are not sustainable long-term business practices or creative practices in this case. And I would put No Way Home in the same bucket as, say, The Force Awakens in that regard, where these movies made $1 billion or $1.5 billion even, and are not terrible. Or successful on their own terms. But the problem is they're so successful on their own terms as their own movies, but they also kind of poison the well going forward for the broader cinematic universes they're supposed to be the cornerstones for. And it's not a thing you can keep repeating ad infinitum. And because the multiverse becomes unwieldy and annoying very quickly when you run out of. I guess it's the similar thing. It's supposed about it's nostalgia strip mining, and you run out of nostalgia so quickly. You have to burn through multiple movies worth of nostalgia to produce one movie that coasts on nostalgia. And that's just not sustainable going forward.
That is the name of this era phase. I mean, I guess it's 3 collective phases, just as the first 3 phases were the Infinity. The phase thing got real muddy and confusing.
Yes.
After Endgame.
It probably would have been a lot easier to clarify it if their main villain post Thanos had not been abruptly jettisoned.
Perhaps the phases will make sense in retrospect when it's all done. Best we can hope for on that, I suppose. But they are going deep into more multiverse stuff right away. I mean, it seems like Fantastic Four is in some sort of different verse. And then the next film we have, which as of this recording, just found out, will be the Avengers Doomsday in the December of 2026. So we're taking another little break.
Whoa. Wait.
Oh, you missed that? Yeah, it happened yesterday. They moved both new next Avengers movies from May to December of their respective years.
The next Avengers thing. They're not really taking a year and a half off from Marvel movies.
There may be some TV shows, but I don't think there's a movie scheduled until then.
Wow.
Oh, wait, you know what? There is, and it's the weird Sony Spider-Man thing that is supposed to fall between Doomsday and Secret Wars. So who knows what that'll happen now, what that means.
Wouldn't be the first Spider-Man thing to be moved around to be because No Way Home was supposed to be before WandaVision, and then it was after WandaVision, which was kind of
same problem.
Fundamentally alters its narrative.
Exactly. Doing it again.
Okay. Well, I thought we were saying something positive about Thunderbolts.
We were. Well, maybe we weren't. I don't know. I'm coming in hot, kind of, but that's not really my take. I think it's fine. I think it's totally an enjoyable, normal film.
Me too, but the chatter on it's been mostly positive, so I guess my stance coming into it is more negative. We're deep into the legacy character, legacy sequel vibes here. Like, this is all the second, or maybe down to the third. We're on our
fourth banana in some cases.
Fourth super soldiers. You got Steve Rogers, and then you have Bucky, who I guess is the second super soldier, and then Falcon never actually took the serum, I don't think, but he's the new Captain America, which makes U.S. Agent maybe the fourth, and Red Guardian the fifth.
Well, there's a Tuskegee Airman one as well, if you would know from Brave New World.
Yeah. I'm talking about people who got like major play doing, action stuff in the movies. Yes, that is a backstory figure. And actually, maybe he was in Brave New World too.
He's got a pretty big part in it, actually.
Okay. Yeah, that's when I skipped. I skipped Brave New World, I skipped the Marvels, so I'm a couple behind here. But we're also on, our second Black Widow. Mm-hmm. And who's to say what Ghost Steel is? Impossible to tell. But
they have no interest in her as a character, so it's fine.
No, and
odd, right?
This is
only one we're just not going to do.
Competent, but Marvel's done all this stuff so much better before. Is the problem? Like, not just like other action movies, other action comedies have done this stuff before. In the Marvel context, they have done all these beats before, and for as much as there's some really good performance work going on here, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, and I would say Wyatt Russell are all doing good work.
Lewis Pullman doing good work, right? He was the standout.
I think he's pretty good. I don't know. That's a weird character. I'm not sure what a much better version of that performance would look like, or a much worse version of it would look like.
Because kind of hear you on that. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, I think everyone's good. Florence Pugh, I guess, would be my standout as well, and Pullman. But I don't know. When it comes to Harbour, I can kind of be like, he's doing his shtick at this point.
Yes.
And they're giving him a little bit more to, say. I kind of just was thinking, like, it's kind of a tribute to, like, the Peter Stormare performances of the 90s that I enjoy so much, and that comparison really doesn't do it very many favors. Like, if this were Peter Stormare, I think have me.
I think it's fine. I think that does.
It's fine.
I mean, in my book, that does it a slight favor. But yeah, it is in that vein. I like that vein. Harbour's great. I think he gets the most of the big laughs in the movie, and he does what he's called upon. But it's a gimmick character. There's less depth to Red Guardian than there is even Drax the Destroyer, who has some of the same stuff going on. In fact, the Guardians of the Galaxy have a lot of the same stuff as the Thunderbolts going on, done much better, and both with a lighter touch and better pacing and better jokes. But the whole thing about we're the losers and the cast-offs and all that, like, that's Star-Lord gave that speech in 2014.
Yeah. And the Suicide Squad is also basically the same premise.
Yes.
It's almost the exact same idea, but with, Well, different losers and cast-offs, I suppose. But yeah, tonally closer to the Guardians films proper. It's genre unto itself at this point is Guardians, I think. Like, we're just making Guardians movies over and over and over again. And so much so that it basically is its own thing. The recent Dungeons and Dragons film is just a Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
That's true.
And
pretty good one. I like that one, yeah.
Yeah, it's an effective story structure, it works. I mean, I think that you could make the argument that the Fast and the Furious movies are basically this genre too. It's
yeah, I haven't kept up with those, but from a distance, it does appear that that's exactly what they've morphed into.
Mm-hmm. It's just one of the more popular things to make movies about nowadays, and it works generally, like creatively and financially. So makes sense, I guess. Guardians was one of the most significant and distinctive movies to come out of this era of superhero films. It's almost fitting that it has birthed its own subgenre.
Yeah, and it's a subgenre I like. It's not really a problem that this is doing that. I just don't think it's doing it. Maybe it's the third or fourth best version of it that Marvel's done, and maybe they have a problem with like hitting on that, losers and rejects beat too hard. It seems like they kind of back off going all the way into it. Maybe it's because they don't want to repeat Guardians of the Galaxy. Maybe it's because it is a bit of a genuine sore spot that audiences have not just like the world of the MCU internally, like the government has rejected U.S. Agent and the public, but like movie-going audiences haven't exactly embraced Ghost and Taskmaster with both arms.
Well, they were fine with Taskmaster not getting embraced, it turns out. That's
weird handling of that, I thought.
Yeah, it just reminds me of I don't know. I mean, they do a similar thing in the first really bad Suicide Squad film with Slipknot, which is a character that apparently, a character no one cares. He's named Slipknot, for God's sake. But Taskmaster does have fans. I guess not this iteration of Taskmaster, though.
Right.
So they felt confident they could probably just reboot that if they wanted down the line.
If they ever want to. I think and I don't care about the character of Taskmaster per se.
No one does.
I'm saying that handling of it in this movie was odd to me because I couldn't get a handle on. Well, I feel like the movie didn't have a handle on. Does Yelena hate Taskmaster? Does she pity her? Is this an emotional blow for her to have Taskmaster's brains blown out right away? And it felt like the movie hadn't never quite decided on that. And
I like that actually. I thought that was really cool. Their handling of that was sort of a punt almost. I think she has like one quick line about it, and it's a good one. It's like, she killed people, and then she got killed, and that's what's going to happen to all of us. It's like, oh, she's fatalistic. That's good. Yeah, that's her arc. Because she was a villain in the Black Widow movie, right? Taskmaster was somebody they were fighting against, and then they're like, well, I understand at the end, or something like that.
Exactly. It's one of those. So I thought going into this movie that she'd be like, no, we have to help her the way like my sister helped me, blah, blah, blah. She's part of my extended family of sisters and so forth. And then to not do that, I don't know. I thought it needed to lean in more to her dismissing it as a, coping mechanism. And I just felt like the direction on Pugh's performance in that reaction was not clear, and it was moved past so quickly. In a different, more deftly written context, like say in Andor.
Sure.
It could be all of those things that she pities her and hates her and is and feels like she failed her and is kind of glad to be rid of her. And a really good writer could mold all that into a couple of lines and a good performer. And I just felt like the way it was projected here, it was less that it was all of those things at once than it was not quite any of them.
Well, I guarantee you there was a pass of the script where Taskmaster was like in the movie all the way through, had an arc, did things, and they just ultimately ran out of time and interest and just like, she gets shot in the beginning. That's what it felt like to me.
Didn't even have time for to include an arc for Ghost.
No, exactly.
Still no idea.
No. She has a very strong power, like a power that is much easier to visually represent than, she can match the fighting style of anyone she's up against, which is a tough one to turn into an impressive scene. I mean, I don't know. If you knew more about fighting, perhaps that'd be like things you could do, but to convey it to an audience is tough. Whereas
No,
phases through things like Kitty Pryde. Okay, got it. Understand.
the way you mostly present the idea that she can fight like anybody else's style is you give her Captain America's shield and Hawkeye's bow and arrow. Anybody's distinctive weapon. She's got, there's a Shang Tsung quality to that. She
Sure.
can do everybody's special move. Red Guardian, thumbs up generally. Ghost, thumbs down. I got kind of a thumb sideways on a U.S. agent here.
I liked him. I thought he did good. I
like Wyatt Russell in this role. I felt like they pulled back from really making him as much of an asshole as
they
it seemed
definitely did.
The script wanted him to be. But he wasn't a very entertaining asshole.
I think that for me, the reason this worked wasn't really the comedies. How funny these guys were. It was that I actually kind of bought the arcs for the most part. And I thought his landed pretty good. I think Wyatt Russell is a huge part of that. Maybe he's one of those Nepo babies that I really do take. He gets a plus up in charisma and my affection for him simply because he's Kurt Russell's son. Like, he reminds me of Kurt Russell, and that gives him points for me. That might be the case, honestly.
Yeah. And, we have the Kurt Russell Nepo baby, the Bill Pullman Nepo baby in here.
Man, he looks a lot like Bill Pullman.
Even Julia Louis-Dreyfus is like a, multi-billionaire heiress, right? Like, I think she's supposed to be in this movie and also in real life. She is it's kind of fitting that there's just the Nepo baby thing is all over this movie that's about the third string and, the new Avengers with an asterisk for Phase 6 legacy heroes.
I mean, I think there's something to that, a bit of knowing kind of, it seems this is an appropriate one to put a lot of Nepo babies in, maybe, because of that.
But it's also maybe just happened because you can't avoid it these days.
Yeah, that's true.
They're everywhere.
They say Patrick Schwarzenegger is going to play Cyclops now.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Okay, I've never seen him in anything, but I would like a really good actor to do Cyclops. That is a potentially really good role that can be really bad.
Yeah. The word on Patrick Schwarzenegger is he's definitely a better actor than his dad, but it's not. He doesn't have the thing. He doesn't have the star power. Yeah. From White Lotus.
I didn't know he existed until 10 seconds ago. I could have told you that.
Yeah, he's a White Lotus guy.
Everybody's a better actor than Arnold Schwarzenegger, and nobody has the Schwarzenegger thing.
Fair point.
Anyway, but okay, yeah. The John Walker character, I did like the sort of way they handled his family arc off screen a little bit. I feel like they've done better, more colorful asshole characters so many times in the past, whether it's Doctor Strange or Iron Man or whoever.
That's
there
true.
could have been a lot more pop there. And especially given like they hang a lampshade at one point on the idea. So wait, all of us are just, we punch and shoot. Like nobody except for Ghost has an actual like visual power that we could rely on. Like that. I think that is a genuine weakness of this movie that making a small joke about it does not really alleviate. And so the personalities needed to be a bit bigger. I think everybody needed to be cranked. Everybody except for Red Guardian needed to be cranked up about 15 or 20% more, I think.
I don't think I agree. I think maybe Red Guardian needs to be cranked down a little. I kind of like that this is sort of mid-tier size-wise as well, that these people aren't larger than life, that they're kind of the people that exist within the fringes of this larger narrative. And they kind of get thrust into something important all of a sudden on accident. I think that's the right tone for this to have. And I like that they're more grounded and close to earth, and there's no big Hulk-style guys. I don't know. I mean, I don't think this would change the movie that much either, to be honest. They're kind of doing it. And it's something I like about it. But, I don't want this to just feel more like Guardians, I would like this to feel more like some sort of ground-level action-y thing. I guess if I'm pointing at MCU movies to be like, what's the template, I would like this to hew closer to Winter Soldier.
Okay, so that's the spectrum we're on. It's somewhere in the middle of Winter Soldier and Guardians. And I actually think it could be stronger if it went further in either of those directions. In a way.
Oh, okay. I feel you on that. Maybe, yeah. I don't know. It's again. I think it's fine, and I understand why people are liking it. It didn't like blow the doors down. It was still a $180 million movie to make. So it's kind of probably hitting about even, all things considered.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean,
It's a vibe shift, I guess. That's good for them.
you were talking about how these are more grounded, kind of real people characters, whatever. And I would say Yelena embodies that more than the rest of them.
Yeah.
And okay, but I think that runs up against some of the problems with the broader MCU problems right now. Is that yes, she is sort of the grounded one, and to the extent that we have any sort of center for the new Avengers, the new generation, I guess it's either her or Sam Wilson as the new Captain America. But again, I skipped that one.
Yeah.
But I guess it's her by virtue of she has now appeared in 2 movies over the course of 5 years. And the first one was a prequel scenario. And so now this is where she was a supporting character. And now this is sort of her, debut to us as the front and center hero. And she comes into us phase 6 already sort of weighed down by the trauma and past just storytelling weight, which, as a reminder, her defining trauma is that she is mourning the death of her sister, who was also a super spy, the grounded member of the Avengers with no supernatural powers. And that grounded super spy sister died throwing herself off a glowing purple cliff in an alternate dimension in order to appease the guardian of the yellow infinity stone with the power of her souls. And the Soulstone's guardian was, of course, as we all know, the ghost of the Red Skull.
Okay.
And so you see how like the A24 trauma aspect of this kind of sits a little uncomfortably with just the reality of where we are 6 phases into the MCU project.
Look, what this movie ultimately about is mental trauma, mental instability, mental illness, which is, I think, an interesting way to go about it. I think if you're doing this story about Bob/Sentry/The Void, that probably is the thing to do. And making these characters sort of self-conscious about their loser status in a way that the Guardians weren't, or the Suicide Squad weren't, because they're all sort of maladjusted, Arkham residents or what have you. I think that is good and appropriate and the way to go. And I think it's probably the number one reason this movie succeeded for the people that it did succeed for, is that it has this this perspective and idea about it. And yes, it's I don't know. There is context for the MCU taking psychological issues seriously a little bit. I mean, Iron Man having trauma in Iron Man 3 about the events of Avengers is sort of the narrative hook of that movie, and it's one of my favorites. They've done things along these lines before. Again, maybe a little better sometimes.
I was being snide about that, but there's a way you can just boil it down to I'm sad that my sister died, and that still functions. Spider-Man: No Way Home functions remarkably well, like by cutting through the interdimensional bullshit to just present the sort of basics of, sad that my girlfriend died, sad that my Marissa Tomei died, type of stuff. And I mean, like the A24ness of this movie, I guess that's what makes it work for some people. For me, maybe it's not that interesting of a thing to do with this. I was like, kind of
Fair.
Like, I was thinking the other day, man, it must be such a wild and innovative pitch to go into a studio these days and have your pitch be, I'm going to make a horror movie that's not about intergenerational trauma. And,
right.
I don't know that I need Marvel to also be defined by all that too. But then again, it could work just fine, and it does work okay here. Like,
I mean, I think that is what this film is offering ultimately. Like there's like, if you don't have that, which is the story of the movie in many ways, like more literally here than anything that's Iron Man 3, really. It's I mean, it ends with a metaphysical series of shame prisons that everyone exists within, and that's what it has instead of a big act. That's its version of a portal in the sky, which it's flirting with here. It's getting close to.
Oh yeah, it's the same thing. It's spreading throughout over downtown Manhattan and life. Yeah, it's a. I guess it's not a sky portal, but it's a portal.
Of a sort, yes. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that did the void stuff. I guess gave the movie its most like visually interesting elements, the shadow stuff. Because other than that, up to that point, I had felt this was a very visually drab Marvel movie where we're in a lot of
cement
concrete bunkers, and then we go outside of that, and we're just in like brown dusty deserts, and none of these characters, in addition to not having like really visually dynamic powers, none of them have bright costumes that jump off the screen.
Needed brighter costumes for sure.
Yeah, maybe a brighter shield for U.S. Agent. I don't know.
Well, he's Dark One. It's a compromised shield, you see.
Of course it is. But it was more unique, I guess, that the trauma prison finale there. It does end in a group hug.
Yeah, and you still got people getting like wrapped up by like the mentally powered bars of rebar and stuff like that. Very Superman stuff. The stuff we've seen in a lot of these movies. I don't know. It's been a little while since it came out now, and I'm starting to be like, I don't even totally, have like remember what I enjoyed about a lot of this so much. I remember it worked, I remember liking it, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like I've come on here on this podcast, and don't go listen to these episodes, please. Talked about how much I enjoyed Thor, Love and Thunder, or even Quantum Mania in some fashion or another. So they were overhated at the time. I have not revisited either because I'm too ashamed to. But
I think I agree with you on those, and I'd say it's less that I think that those movies are any better than this necessarily. It's just that it's reactionary to the vibes on those movies were that they were awful, and I was like, these are kind of standard Marvel. They're closer to standard Marvel fare than people are saying. And then the vibes on this are that it's great, and I'm like, this is closer to standard Marvel fare than people are saying.
Okay, you know what? Yes, you've rescued that my take. Okay, I'm pleased with that. That's about right. I mean, that it's inevitable when there's 30. I think this is 36. I think something like that. 36 movies in a franchise that is ostensibly linked. You can be like, well, this one's the paranoid 70s thriller as much as you want to them. They're still gonna, they're still gonna be linked. They're still gonna feel the same. And there's nothing you can do about that. It is, in fact, a feature, not a bug. That is why that's what we're selling here. It's an MCU movie. So I don't expect them to change that anytime soon, even as they try hard to rebrand. I mean, I think that's going to be a PR thing more than anything else, really.
Yeah, you have kind of a clean slate. You get to cast all new X-Men and Fantastic Four. I think that
Patrick Schwarzenegger.
I'm never been a huge Fantastic Four fanatic, but they seem to have nailed the casting there, as far as I can tell.
Looks fun, yeah.
What was the biggest surprise in Thunderbolts for me? On kind of a meta level, but Sebastian Stan and Bucky being like a highlight of the movie, and like I was like, at some point. Maybe just in the couple movies that I skipped, but Sebastian Stan has become kind of the elder statesman of the current iteration of Marvel, and he's the guy who can come in. He's the most with the most gravitas and weight. And like, okay, this guy like kind of knows what he's doing at least. And I was surprised what a familiar and welcome presence Bucky Barnes was to me in this, because that's not a character I ever consciously had much affection for.
I mean, it's got to be a horrors or old houses kind of thing, right? I mean, he's just been here so long, and he's I would say probably like top 5 most films in the MCU under his belt at this point. Got to be, right?
Just quietly racked him up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think Stan has become a better actor, or just has gotten.
He's a new Oscar nominee.
His role,
yeah,
that he can do more with less than some of the other people that are newer to their roles. It feels like. I mean, I love the little aside where, you know, as much as I kind of would have liked to have seen some more of the other Thunderbolts making their way through their own shame prisons, just him showing up like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I got a great pass, so this was all totally cool for me. It's a good toss off of that. Like, we don't have to rehash this whole deal, which is even more so than Yelena's trauma. Probably built up with its brainwashing and Nazi cyber arms, RoboCop stuff. Anyway. But yeah, I was like, oh, when did I started liking this character without realizing. It was a surprise to me.
I did enjoy all the memes about Daredevil Born Again characters in Manhattan during the Void event, losing their shit. That was fun. Like, what would the Punisher's shame prisons look like? What would Kingpin's? They'd be bad.
I'd probably look a lot like what the Daredevil Born Again show actually shows us with the Kingpin. But yeah, no, integrating Daredevil into this is still going to be difficult. I feel that's a whole other can of worms. They appear to be kicking down the road even farther.
Well, yeah, so they are. I mean, I don't know. There will be TV shows, MCU shows. I don't know what the docket is, but those are like produced and dealt with at this point. So there'll be more of those before Avengers and whatever the next one is, Doomsday in December of next year.
They brought him over to do a cameo in No Way Home, which you just completely forget happened. And then I guess he was in the She-Hulk show, so which was a very different vibe for that character. But now they seem to just kind of be rebuilding the Daredevil Netflix universe around him with that on Disney Plus. But like, it's hard for me to. Is he going to be in the Fantastic Four? Maybe I kind of am not sure about that.
Well, he'd probably be in Endgame, or maybe not. Who knows? You know, I have no idea what that movie's going to be, to be honest. Seems like a mess, but we'll see.
I'd say smart money's on on mess for what that movie's going to be.
But you know, it'll be out at Christmas, and we'll all go see it, and that's what they want. You know, I think
but not this Christmas. Next Christmas is what you're saying. That's okay.
Well, this Christmas is the Avatar sequel, so Disney domination will be, you know, of your holiday will continue. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, I guess I shouldn't be upset about them pushing Doomsday back. I do prefer them to actually take their time and figure some shit out before they do these things. You know, that's why, and part of why Andor is great, and you know, Rise of Skywalker is not, for example. They've done a lot of damage to these Disney to these two big brands they have by pushing forward without having things figured out. I mean, I guess there's some romanticism to the idea of, we're throwing together on the fly. That's the way things kind of always be done. And Kevin Feige kept a lot of plates spinning for a very long time in a way that probably made it look more intentional than it might have even been. But the plate stopped spinning several years ago in a lot of cases. And I think it's maybe time to take a little more care with their rebuilding process.
Well, that's what they're promising. You know, there's a concerted PR effort to be like, okay, we know what we got wrong. Here's how we fix it. Here's how we get back to where we were. It can be done. We have a plan. They've been out there saying this sort of stuff. You know, this has been, it's been part of the Thunderbolts marketing, frankly. I mean, this is what they're at now. They think they can right the ship. I do think this is almost entirely just what we're saying to the press. You know, dealing with perception. Now, there will be some stuff, I'm sure, that changes. The promise is that Feige is going to be stretched a lot less thin, and he is, of course, the secret sauce that makes it all work. They're betting it all on that. And, you know, hey, he's got a track record, so not a bad bet, maybe. They're taking the TV away in a large part, making it more of a, you know, isolated stuff that doesn't necessarily tell stories that you're going to see on screen. You know, things like this, you know. And that's all smart and good. But I do think that it's never coming back to what it was. You know,
no.
It's not going to happen. I think if anything, maybe DC can kind of steal the thunder a little bit. I think that's possible, but not a given either. Not at all. Like,
well, because they're rebooting from the ground up with they can do all their heavy hitters again. Yeah, you were never going to be able to. U.S. agent was never going to be able to command the public attention and affection the way that Captain America can. That's
his story.
It's the entire premise of the character. In the comic books and on the screen. And that's also just true of all of this. Yeah, the young Avengers are never going to be as big as the Avengers. Mm-hmm. New Coke was a failure, famously. And, it's good to try new things and bring new faces in, but I think it's also good to have some level of realism about, look, that was lightning in a bottle. And it's amazing that we kept that lightning in the bottle for 10 years, but we're not going to get all of it back in.
Well, it is the sort of like, they're a business. They bought the Marvel name to make a ton of movies and make money with them in perpetuity. So they're going to keep doing this, I think they have a fortunate escape hatch here, which is the mutants. They can kind of just do a real proper rebrand or remount or whatever. I don't know how.
Pivot to Fantastic Four and X-Men being the centerpiece instead of the Avengers.
Yeah, they're lucky that they can do that. But even that is going to be, it's an iteration of something that we are very familiar with, having seen, 25 years of Fox X-Men films. So even that'll be another version of the thing to go along with our new Supermans and Harry Potters and everything that will continue to dominate the cultural landscape for the rest of the decade and beyond.
Yeah, okay. Great, we ended this on a real positive note. We're just, right?
Andor was really good, though, is the thing. I really enjoyed Andor.
Yeah, I don't know what the Marvel version of that looks like, though. I don't know that either.
Well, Frank, I don't know what another version of that in Star Wars looks like. It seems very difficult to, too much to ask for, frankly.
Yeah, I think that the narrative around Thunderbolts is stronger as this is the Marvel train getting back on the track. Whereas there seems to be a pretty broad acknowledgement that all Star Wars is not just going to reinvent itself in Andor's image now, and that'll be that's their route back to whatever. People all seem to just understand that Andor's kind of a one-off. I don't know, but
Thunderbolts is a lot more replicatable than Andor, though. I mean, just on its merits, on what it's doing. Like, you can make a ton of Thunderbolts, if that's the bar.
It is. I think that Andor might be more useful, though, as an antibiotic, or its medicinal use may be better, because if we start with the premise that Star Wars and the MCU in its phase 6 iteration were equally broken, where they kind of didn't know how to progress these things forward, and Andor's prescription is reinvention, whereas Thunderbolts is kind of we can kind of reset the bones and hobble along doing what we were doing more or less the same. And yes, you can't just take 2 doses of Andor every day in perpetuity and that will solve all the problems. But it seems to be more of an impetus for reinvention, for pivoting, for whatever you want to call it. To try some new things.
I mean, sure enough, and it worked, which is a big part of that. The execution actually was successful. You could look at something like The Acolyte, which I didn't watch, but from what I gleaned, I mean, the things that I do understand about it are different enough in some ways that, you could say...
I watched half of it, so I can't say for sure either, but it felt more like Ahsoka than it did Andor to me.
Stylistically, they are doing other stuff there, though. They're doing new stories in different time periods, making up a backstory and history, and doing Knights of the Old Republic essentially. Not the same period, but the same kind of reinvention, the same kind of new take on a story. A new status, a new way of everybody being. There's space witches or something like that. They're attempting to shake the apple cart up there a bit. They're just not executing on the level of Andor, from what I understand. I didn't watch it, but
No, I think you're right. Acolyte on paper at least does the freestanding thing that sort of. I don't know if it got far. 100 years, I think, is before the prequels is where it's set. I don't know if in the Star Wars universe 100 years actually is enough
Well, Yoda could be in a character,
narrative
so probably
space. Yeah,
not.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it may not have totally succeeded in that, but yes, it was at least supposed to be that thing. And now they have, but that was, actually, it's pretty widely hated from everything I've seen. And Andor is really widely beloved. So at least now they have a successful iteration
Well, yeah.
of that to go alongside the failure one. And we won't just get Mandalorians all the way down, hopefully. But we could very well just get more Thunderbolts.
I think
type.
literally, you think we get, well, I don't know. I don't know what they intend to do with these characters going forward. I mean, they'll have some role in the big Avengers crossover events here. Do they exist beyond that, you know? Or are they getting wiped out early on?
I would guess Ghost taking an early loss in Doomsday.
Sure,
As
yeah.
one of our like tone setters, like the way that Idris Elba gets off in Infinity War or something. But
Well, who do you hold on to?
They'll throw all the Avengers together. That's
Right.
There won't be a movie called The New Avengers. It'll be called Avengers Doomsday, and Yelena will end up on the team with Falcon and whoever else they're using. I don't know.
Sure, yeah, she's a keeper. Obviously, you want her in your movies. Maybe I imagine Harbor probably too. He seems to fit the general vibe. John Walker, I don't know, man. He was someone I had more interest in, and Bob was also a tough one because like his power set is very weird.
It's world breaking in a way that you have to just kind of Professor X style. It's just sidelined him for narrative sake, so there's something for Yelena to do possibly.
Yeah, but I don't know if
Ghost
we
is
ever
not
see
making
another Thunderbolts or New Avengers or whatever they want to do here in this context. I don't know if that happens, or maybe there's 3 of them planned now. Who can say?
No, I think I'll make the prediction. They're not going to do direct Thunderbolt sequels. They'll pick the winners here and put them into the other Avengers movies, and I think that'll be Ghost gets shelved, Yelena goes forward. Red Guardian's kind of a mascot character, like what's the Rock guy that Taika Waititi voices in the Thor movies?
The Korg, I want to say.
Yeah, he's sort of a Korg, there, but not that important figure.
He can be on one of the shows.
John Walker might get like one big sort of redemptive arc in one of the movies, but I don't know that he'll be like a fixture
Right.
permanently going forward. You can't have too many Captains America lying around.
What about Valentina de Allegra de Fontaine? Is that the name? Did I get that right?
I don't know. I don't care what they do with her. That just character is never quite.
Hey, this was the first movie she was functional as a character in. I think she totally worked in this. Not great, but she was. She didn't confuse and irritate me in this.
No, that functional was all I'll give her.
Yeah, she should have died in this movie though.
Yeah, they just need offer like that.
What are we saving her
fine.
for? What are we saving this character for? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Julia got to cash some checks. Fine for her. Whatever. Didn't work. Anyway.
All right.
So that's Thunderbolts MCU.
I'm excited about Fantastic Four. I want to talk about that when it comes out.
Yeah, that's this summer, right? Yeah.
Yeah. As of now, it's like 2 months away.
Yeah. Okay. So we're still getting Marvel movies. We'll do that one.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere, man. Don't worry.